we're going to be recording this session. All right? Now, there will be occasions where I may record some of these sessions so that you folks have it to refer to at a later time. So with that, is everybody in the right class? Is everybody where they're supposed to be? Because this isn't underwater basket weaving, right? All right. So, if you read the course procedure sheet before you came in here, you probably saw this gigantic course description that appears at the top. Now, if I were to read this to y'all, I would probably have to have oxygen because it looks a little long, right? So I'm going to sum it up for you real quick. Basically, the AJS101 is designed to be a high-level overview of crime, criminal justice, and criminal law. We're not going to get into depth and detail. What we are going to do is we're going to get a big, broad, big picture overview of those three elements: crime, criminal justice, and criminal law. All right? So that's what we're going to be talking about. Now, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I've been a police officer back when, not quite when dinosaurs ruled the earth, mind you. But let me put it to you this way. The picture on the right is right after I rotated out of ICE and went back to uniform. At the time, I was carrying a 6-shot revolver. So was everybody else. So it gives you an idea how long I've been doing this, right? The fact that I look this good is all the fast food I've been eating for years and years. I'm so well preserved, right? So I've been doing this since the mid-'80s. I ended up retiring in 2012. Somewhere in between, I met that fella in the green suit on the left side of the screen. I worked for General David Petraeus in a laboratory in Baghdad, where I provided forensic identification services and fingerprint examination. All right, so you're going to get the benefit of all those years of experience. All right, so that's a little bit about me. All right, like I said, my name is Mr. Saya. You can call me Mr. Saya, Professor Saya, whatever you're comfortable with. Okay. Me llamo Señor Sagin. Me llamo Profesor Sagin. Whatever you're most comfortable with. If you need to reach me, the best way to do it is by email. All right? The email is not only written up here on the screen, it's also in your course procedure sheet. By now, you should already have an email with the course procedure sheet attached. If you don't, you'll also find it on Moodle. All right? If it's a time-sensitive matter, I have a text message cell phone number. It is changed from the last semester. I found that my number wasn't exactly reliable if people were dialing from Mexico, so I changed carriers. I'm hoping this one does better. It's 520-261-0490. I already talked a little bit about my background. Basically, I have a bachelor's degree in criminal justice, a master's degree in forensic science, and I'm currently a doctor of philosophy candidate in criminal justice, which means I have a head full of useless knowledge and absolutely no time to myself. All right? From 2012 onward, I left law enforcement, left the freezing cold weather of Michigan to come to the allegedly warmer climate of Florida and Arizona. What happened? I mean, does it usually get this cold out here in Arizona? Not usually. I haven't had to run the water faucet since I left Michigan. Michigan, it gets cold. 15 below. That's a lot of fun, right? All right. So that's a little bit about me. If you have to get a hold of me, please give me your real name. I don't know who babygirl205 at AOL.com is. Yes, I have gotten messages like that. All right? I have gotten them. All right? Along those same lines, if you are texting me, make sure it's me you're texting. All right? I actually have a text message from one of my former Miami students, because I used to teach in Miami. Here I was one day getting a text message from a student saying, "Hey baby, want to get fucked up?" I can't make this stuff up if I tried. "Hey honey, did you send me a text?" And within a minute, of course, my wife's response, being the calm, collected person that she is, "Who is this bitch?" "Don't know yet." Then comes the text message, "Oh, sorry, not your birthday." No. I'd like to meet the guy whose birthday it was. He had a good time. He had a very good time. All right, so I will acknowledge your message, whether it's by email, text messaging. I will acknowledge it. All right. If I don't acknowledge it within a reasonable amount of time, send it again, because something may have crashed between here and there. All right. First, but above all, who does not know how to use their Cochise College student email? Let's be honest. Who checked in the last 24 hours? Looks pretty good. Who checked in the last 48 hours? Who checked in the last 5 days? Who hasn't checked it in 2 weeks? So everybody's pretty good, right? All right. Make sure you use it, because that's how I'm going to be communicating to you, is by email. All right? So, that said, if I happen to be driving and you text me, chances are I'm not going to return your text message until I get to where I'm at. All right? Hello. And now you get to introduce yourself to the class. Who might you be? Okay. What's that? Okay, today we're going over some expectations. So, like I said, I don't text and drive, and neither should you. Anybody know what the penalty is for texting and driving in this state? You know, the police can stop you for it as a primary violation. My wife got a ticket last semester. Wasn't for much, but the ticket was over $200. You can just imagine what texting and driving is going to cost you, right? I can't afford it. I don't text and drive, neither should you. All right? So if I'm driving and I don't text you and you send another message, don't get frustrated. Could be I'm driving. If it is outside of school hours, like let's say in 2 o'clock in the morning you decide to text me because you're at the bar getting hammered. This has happened. I don't feel good. I won't come into class tomorrow. 2 in the morning. Anybody want to guess what my wife's reaction was when the phone chirped at 2 o'clock in the morning? That's pretty much a quote. Except there were a few more expletives. So yeah, she's been known. That's pretty much what she what she says. Hold on. It's bitch. All right. So I have learned to shut off the ringer at 2 o'clock in the morning. So again, if you're drunk dialing me at 2 a.m., I'm not going to return your call until normal business hours. All right? Just a little something I do to maintain marital peace in the household, right? If you're married or you have a live-in girlfriend, you'll understand this. If you don't, and you will, you'll understand it sooner or later. All right? So, one thing I will not do is I will not release grades by text messaging or email. Grades are only released through the usual channels, and that's because it violates FERPA. FERPA is the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. Believe it or not, your school record is protected. You have rights, believe it or not. I am obligated to protect those rights. Bottom line is, you're all nice people, I hope. But none of you are worth going to prison for. So don't ask me to release your grades by email or text messaging. All right? Okay. This is the Douglas class. It's going to meet here at 12:15 to 1:30, Mondays and Wednesdays, at this room 1118. I also teach a section of class in Sierra Vista. So that means I will be here twice a week. My office hours when I'm on the Douglas campus are Mondays and Wednesdays, 9:30 to 10:30 in the morning, or 3 to 4:30 in the afternoon. If those hours don't work for you, please email me or text me, and we'll work something out. All right. Fridays are generally open. The phone numbers that are listed below, they do have voicemail on them, so if I'm not in the office, please leave a message. I'll return your call. All right. All right, so let's talk about attendance. Who plans on missing a lot of time? Who plans on missing a lot of class time? Nobody, right? Okay. Keep in mind that if you miss 3 consecutive classes, that means one after another, you are subject to being dropped. All right? If you find yourself missing class, you're responsible for finding out what was discussed that particular day. All right? So, any military folks here? Former military? Okay. When I was in the military, we had a little something called a battle buddy. My battle buddy was Stephen Green, but we'll talk about him later on. I had his phone number and his email, so if I missed out on something, I called Steve. I said, Steve, what's up? And if Steve missed something, hey, what'd I miss? Find a friend. Get to know them. All right? If you leave early or come in late 3 times, that counts as an absence. Because what happens is, especially with that door, is people go in and out, that door bangs, and then the whole the screen shakes and it becomes a disturbance. All right? 3 of them equals an absence. Now let's talk about excused absences. Absences may be excused if you tell me about these absences at least 30 minutes before class starts. And by tell, I mean text message, email, phone message, right? Now I may ask you to provide some form of written confirmation that you were where you say you were. And you may think that's kind of harsh, right? Let me tell you a little story. I'm full of little stories, by the way, in case you haven't figured it out. When I was in Miami teaching a class, I had a 4-hour block of time. I had a student who told me that she had to go to her sister's state mandated test, and her sister's is in middle school. I didn't know any better. I just came in from Michigan. What do I know, right? 2 hours into class, somebody said, "Hey, I just got an Instagram from so-and-so. She sent me a picture." So I said, "Hey, kids, want to see something cool?" See, what she did was she took a selfie on the beach with her cell phone. And she happened to have a smartphone. What she didn't know was that if you take a picture with a smartphone, it'll automatically imprint your GPS coordinates, the date and time the photograph was taken. And that can be read through the use of certain computer utilities. So I showed the class, "Hey, let's find out where she is," using her GPS coordinates and the date and time stamp. There wasn't a school within 5 miles of her location. We had a chat. So since then, I've put every class on notice. I may ask you for confirmation. That confirmation may also be confirmed on my own. I've had people whose entire families have died 3 times over, only to find out that they're still alive. It has happened. All right, now when you come in, you're ready to go. All right, I don't provide supplies. I can barely afford to supply myself because I'm in PhD school. And you think your books and supplies are expensive? Try mine. $200 a book. That's why I rent mine. With that said, let's take a look at the book for this class. All right. This is our textbook. The American System of Criminal Justice by Cole, Smith, and DeJong. Available at your friendly neighborhood bookstore. I'm going to guess, because everybody's writing stuff, that very few people have their textbook. Is that a fair statement? Judging by the nods, I'd say yes. By the way, if you're looking at the discussion post, and Mike Cochise, I believe last semester student is trying to sell his. It's a thought. Now, let me give you a little something that's off the books. If you were to go to bookfinder.com, and I know there's at least one web-enabled device here. If you were to go to bookfinder.com and plug in that ISBN number, it will tell you what the book goes for new, where it goes for used, and and how much it costs to rent it. It's like one-stop comparison shopping. So if you're looking for a good deal, that's a good place to start looking. All right. Having said that, if you don't have the book, get it. Get it quick. Because next week's quiz is open book. Everybody got that so far? All right. All right. Let's talk a little bit about academic honesty, or the lack thereof. Anybody want to guess what the percentage of criminal justice students that are dishonest go on to commit unethical business practices? Yes, sir. More than 50? Anybody have another guess? Yes, sir. 70? I hear 50, or more than 50, right? 70. Anybody else? Studies show that 80% of criminal justice students that commit academic dishonesty go on to commit ethical violations at work. Scary, huh? Who's interested in becoming a police officer? Anybody want to do corrections? Parole and probation? Okay. Anybody read the news? For those of us in the cop business or want to be in the cop business, we're getting our ass kicked. We're getting our ass kicked daily. You can't pick up a paper. You can't log into a news website. You can't listen to a radio without hearing about some cop doing something stupid. Where do you think they start? Right here. They start cheating their way through school. That's where they start. And that's why when police departments get somebody with college, they will send an investigator over here with a hold harmless statement. And they will want to see your records. And they will want to talk to your professors. Florida especially. I had a student in my class who told me, before God and everybody, not here by the way, Florida, the only reason I'm here is to get free dope. Yeah. Because you smoke dope, all you cops smoke dope, I know it for a fact. Really? No, I do not smoke dope, in case anybody was curious. I faked it a few times when I worked vice and narcotics, but I don't smoke dope. Never did, never will. Don't suggest that you start. Want to screw up a career? It's a good way to do it. All right. Having said that, about a year after she left that university, I got a phone call from a background investigator wanting to see me about that student. Anybody want to guess what kind of conversation we had? Let's talk about smoking dope. All right. I've got other. Believe me, I got a million stories. All right. So, do I take dishonesty seriously? Yes, I do. Any academic dishonesty detected will result in administrative referral, which means the dean will receive a report. It will end up on your record. I, in turn, will also give you a 0. There's no reason in the world why anybody should have to cheat their way through school, or plagiarize, or crib note, or whatever is the method of choice. All right? No reason. There's all kinds of help here if you want it. All you have to do is ask. No reason in the world. All right? Let's talk about electronic devices in class. I had a little conversation not too long ago with a certain local police department. And they told me, among other things, next time you teach a class, you tell these kids that I don't want you to write the way you text. No JK, no ROFL. That does not go on a report. Unfortunately, with text messaging and email being what they are, people tend to think that's the way we do things in the real world. It is. All right. So let's talk about electronic devices in class. All right. Hasn't happened all that often, but it has happened where people are text messaging during class, or using their phones, or taking phone calls. All right. Unfortunately, if it gets to the point where it starts becoming a distraction, I will count you absent. Because if you're not listening to me, and you're not listening to your fellow students, are you hearing anything? Are you learning? Probably not. All right. Having said that, I don't mind laptops. Laptops can be helpful. Tablets can be helpful. Unless you're checking your eBay or your Amazon, right? What's the other big shopping thing? Woot? If you're checking that stuff, it's not helping. All right? By the way, we also grade participation daily. We'll talk about that in a minute. All right? This is the grading criteria. 20% of your chapter quizzes. I'm sorry. Let me restate that because that didn't come out. 20% of your final grade is your weekly quiz average. All right. 15% comes from your project paper. We'll talk about that on Wednesday. We do not have a midterm exam in this class. Instead, we're going to have two exams, one at week 5 and one at week 10. They're both worth 10%. The final exam is a cumulative exam. That means we cover everything from the first day to the last day of class. That is worth 30%. Daily participation is worth 15%. So every time you're here, you're graded. And then finally we have extra credit. We have an extra credit limit of 10%. Up to 100% of your total grade. And this is what I mean is this. Let's say you have a 95 grade average. You have 10% extra credit. That doesn't mean you get 105%. That means your maximum is capped at 100%. School doesn't have A+ grades, so I can't give you 105. All right, let's talk about the grading scale. 90 to 100% of your total points is an A. 80 to 89 is a B. 70 to 79 is a C. 60 to 69 is a D. Anything below 60% of total is an F. I do not curve grades, which means I do not preset that 20% of the students get an A, 20% get a B, and so forth. If you all get A's, I'll be happy to give them to you. All right? Just like in the real world. If you all do A work, you all get an A. All right? Let's talk about how the papers are graded. Papers are graded with an MLA format, which is the same format that you will be using in your English 100 and 101 classes. Typically, they're no more than 5 pages, not including any reference pages or cover sheets. We'll talk more about MLA papers on Wednesday. They are uploaded to Moodle, which means I don't accept paper submissions. Don't give me paper, because I got to do something with it, right? You give me paper, I got to do something with it. If you ever see my office, there's not a lot of room. So, upload it to Moodle. The paper is due April 30th at 11:59 p.m. All right? We'll talk more about the papers on Wednesday. Now, let's talk about Moodle now that I brought it up. Has everybody logged into Moodle at least once? I see a couple of hands. Has anybody ever used Moodle? Quite a few you have, right? All right. So you know moodle.cochise.edu puts you into Moodle, right? You all right? You'll let me know if you're sick, right? Thank you. I appreciate that. I would prefer that you leave quietly, and that means don't let the door slam. All right? So if you need to get up and go by all means, but just don't let the door slam on the way out, okay? All right. That's just as a courtesy to your fellow students. All right? To get into Moodle, go to that website, moodle.cochise.edu. It's the same username and password as the college email. This does not mean that this is an online course or a blended course. It's just a supplement. But tests, papers, and exams will be hosted there, as well as online discussion posts. We'll talk about posts in greater depth and detail again on Wednesday. All right. Here's the problem with Moodle. Moodle tends to underreport grades, which means it generally tells you, if you're looking at the total grade, that you're failing, which is not accurate. So what I suggest to you is you dedicate 1 page of your notes to a grade record. So when you get those quiz grades, you write them down. All right? Once you get the average quiz grade, your average participation grade, your week 5 and 10 exams and so forth, then you can put them in this little calculator found at beneg.net. First off, who knows how to do an average? Who can tell me how to do an average? In the back. Exactly. So if I have 5 quizzes and I add up my total, I divide by what number? To get my average. All right? Once you get those grades, go to beneg.net, click on Grade Calculator, and this is what you're going to see. You fill in that average where it says grade, you put in the weight. By the way, how much are your quiz grades worth? 20%, correct. You put that into the weight. You put in your week 5 exam, for example. That's worth how much? 10%, right. Put that in under the weight. Fill in all those blanks. Then you go to the bottom of the page and you hit the compute button. And it will tell you any time of the day or night, even at 2 o'clock in the morning when you come home from an adult beverage establishment. By the way, everybody's at least 18, right? What's the drinking age here? There you go. Don't drink until you reach 21. All right. Hit compute. It'll tell you what your grade is. So you can pretty much find out anytime what your grade is at any given moment. It even has a couple of what-if boxes. Take a look at the bottom of that page. It asks you, what average grade do I need in order to get an overall average of whatever? Plug in that number, hit compute, it'll tell you. Or if I get an average of a grade on these remaining assignments, what grade am I going to end up with? It'll tell you. beneg.net. All right. This thing is so accurate, I use it to compute your final grades. It's that good. Then I also use an Excel spreadsheet, but that's another story. All right. So let's talk about the individual line items that go into your final grade. Participation grade is assessed every class day, which is one of the reasons why I made up this little seating chart. All right? So that's why everybody gets an accurate assessment. Participation grade is based on observable demonstrated effort, which means, and let me digress a little. I actually had a student last semester, not on this campus. She came to me and she said, well, I don't understand why I got a participation grade of 1. Well, what's a 1 criteria? Well, it means I just sit there and say nothing. Well, That's what you're showing me. Well, I'm kind of shy and I don't feel like, I get embarrassed when I talk in front of people. Okay, then you get a 1. All right? How can I guess what you know? You have to demonstrate what you know. And the reason being is that you're going to learn probably as much or more from your fellow classmates as you do from me. All right? It's assessed on a 0 to 4 scale. We'll talk about what each number means in a minute. You take your average score, you multiply by 25, and that's the number you plug into Ben Eggleston's calculator. Now, participation is worth how many? How many percent of your total? 15. There you go, 15%. Now, I use the same thing in Miami, and every student I ever talked to said the same thing. It's 15%, why do I care? Here's why. 15% is actually 1.5 grade levels. Can this get important? Yeah, take a look at the examples. Let's say you had a 90 overall, but you ended up with a 0 participation grade. Your 90 just became a 75. Let's say you're a B student with 0 participation. You just got a D. C student, doesn't go well for you. Is participation important? You bet. All right? You bet. So let's talk about what goes in each participation grade. You get a 0 if you are absent, regardless of the circumstance. Because you're not here, you can't demonstrate. All right? Question in the back or concern? Okay. Also, you get a 0 if you demonstrate unsafe or disruptive behavior. In Miami, I had a girl who decided she'd pull out her gun and point it at a student. Miami's a wonderful place, huh? She got a 0 participation grade for that day. Why am I getting a 0? Now, last semester, not here, but at another campus, I actually had 2 students square off and were about to duke it out in the middle of class. Believe it or not. I haven't had to break up a fight since I was in Miami. All right? If I have to go to the length of writing up an incident report and sending it up to the administration because of your behavior, all your participation credit is forfeited. You get a 0. And if you're on the edge, you know what's going to happen, right? So, start to square off in my class, that's it. 0 participation grade. Forfeiture of all credit. Like you weren't even there. All right? Score of 1, as I mentioned before, that means you show up, you take a seat, you don't disrupt class, but then again, you don't add much to it either. I usually have to come to you and ask for a response. Tend not to get involved. All right? So for those of you in the back, you'll hear from me. All right? All right. A 2 score basically tells me that you've read the book, you've done the preparation, but you haven't thought much about it. You haven't made it your own yet. All right? And you don't participate much. All right? Every once in a while I get a sign of life from you. Score of 3 means you've actually read ahead and thought about it. You're ready to participate. All right? You contribute well to what's going on. You're consistently involved. I know you're in class. All right? This is considered a class minimum. If I don't see at least 3-level participation, then I start changing things up. And then I start having people do in-class presentations. All right? Thanks for not letting it slam. I appreciate that. All right? So, read and be ready. 4, participation score. Not only do you read and understand, but you thought about it and you've applied it to what's going on. You even come up with something new, something we haven't thought of. That's a 4 level. Ongoing, highly active involvement. All right. That's participation. Let's talk about the quizzes. There is a quiz every week. Quizzes are usually available in the middle of the week. Quizzes, if they're delivered online, have to be completed by 11:59 p.m. on Sunday. Most quizzes will be 5 to 7 questions in length, true, false, and multiple guess. 25% of those quizzes will be a discussion post instead of a series of questions. If I had 16 quizzes, what's 25% of that number? 4. That's correct. So count on at least 4 quizzes being discussion posts. All right? The week 1 and 2 quiz are going to be done here. They'll be done in the computer lab. Week 1 is going to be a quiz on course procedures. It will be an open source quiz, which means you may have your course procedure sheet or anything else you need to take the quiz. All right? Let me give you a little hint right now. One question is going to be, where is my office and what is posted on the door or next to the door? So you might want to know that ahead of time, right? All right. Week 2 quiz is open textbook, also done here. Both those quizzes will be on Wednesday. All right. So for those of you who have a textbook, by next Wednesday, you're in luck. All right. You'll have 30 minutes to complete the quiz if it's done here. After week 2, we change things up a little bit. The remainder of weeks 3 through 16 quizzes can be completed on or off campus. Your choice. Because you'll be able to access Moodle anywhere you are, right? Someone needs to silence that phone. All right. Weeks 3 through 16 quizzes will be closed source, and you'll have 15 minutes to complete them. 15 minutes is plenty of time if you've done your preparation. If you have to look up the answers in a book, 15 minutes is not enough time. However, last semester we did have a system outage. If that happens, text me immediately and follow it up with an email. Because then I can do some resetting work remotely. If I can't reset it, I'll send out an announcement extending the quiz deadline. All right? That's what this means by subject to change. Okay. Let's talk about the exams. In week 5 and week 10, you will have an exam. The week 5 exam is going to be February 10th, covers everything from weeks 1 through 5. Week 10 test covers Everything in weeks 6 through 10, and it will be given March 16th. It's worth 10% of your total grade. It is taken on campus at a computer lab or in a classroom with enough computers to accommodate everybody. It is time constrained, which means you will only have 60 minutes or so to complete it. And it is a closed source exam, which means no books, no electronics, no aids of any kind. Or as some like to call it, an open mind test. Final exam will be May 9th. Again, at a classroom that has adequate computers for everybody. We currently have 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11, 18, 20, 21. We have 24 students currently. We have 25 enrolled. So that means I have to make a few special arrangements. I will announce the location as we get closer to those dates. That too is a time-constrained test. You'll have about 60 minutes or so to complete the questions. It too is a closed source exam. One final warning regarding electronics. I actually had a student, not here, pull out a cell phone and start texting. What is this, phone a friend? She got a 0. And then she wondered why. Don't be that girl or guy. All right? Let's talk about late work. Assignments and tests and everything else is due when it's as it is assigned. So if I tell you it's due March 10th, that means it's due March 10th. Late work is not accepted, and it gets a summary 0 grade, unless you make some kind of prior arrangements. Everybody clear on that? By prior arrangements, that means before it's due, you and I have a chat, and we come to an understanding, and that understanding is verified by email. All right? No requests will be considered after the due date has passed. I've actually had people forget or fail to take the quiz and then come to me on Tuesday and say, hey, I forgot about the quiz, I blew it off. Here's your 0. All right. Final exam has no makeup. It's given when it's given. All right. Reason being is that the final exam is what date? May 9th. What else happens on May 9th? Yep. Pretty much. It's the last day of class for the semester. So does that mean, can I give you a class or give you an exam after that date? No, I can't. So it's due May 9th. All right? There is no makeup. You don't take it, you're not there, you get a 0. Can't help you. Let's talk about extra credit. There will be 2 and only 2 opportunities for extra credit in this class. One of them is the survey I hope you've taken already. If not, you need to take it by Sunday at 11:55 because otherwise it will close. If you take the exit and entry survey, you get an extra 5%. All right? Easy, huh? Answer a couple surveys. 5%. Not a bad deal, huh? Those surveys are anonymous. The only thing I get is a list of people who get credit and a list of people who don't. Kind of like Santa's list, right? The other one is a optional research paper, which we'll talk about on Wednesday. All right? Those are the only extra credit opportunities in this class. If you come to me later in the semester and say, well, can I do this for extra credit? The answer is going to be what? No. Got it for everybody, folks. All right. So with that, anybody have any questions so far? Yes, ma'am. The first quiz will be Wednesday. It's an open source quiz on the course procedures. Yes, ma'am. No, these will be done on campus, and I'll tell you why I do it that way. What I find is that sometimes people get a little flustered when they do a Moodle quiz for the first time, so I want to be there when they take their quiz. How it's going to work is on Wednesday, we're going to move over to the computer lab. And then we're all going to sit for the quiz. We're all going to take the quiz. If you get flustered, I'll be there to walk you through it. So think of it as more of a practice quiz, but there's credit involved. All right? So Wednesday, last 30 minutes of class, we'll head to the computer lab. You take a quiz. Shouldn't take you all that long anyway. And that'll be your first quiz. Your second quiz, we're going to do the same thing. Last 30 minutes of the Wednesday class. We're going to take our stuff and head over to the computer lab. And then the third one you can do either here or somewhere else. Correct. Correct. All right. But by then, you'll have already taken the 2 quizzes, right? And I'll be there to walk you through it, right? I'm not going to give you the answer, but at least I'll let you walk through it. All right? Any other questions so far? Okay, if you do have questions, there's a course procedure sheet. Check your email, check Moodle. But if you still have a question, don't hesitate to email me or text me, all right? Even though I was around before, in the age of the dinosaurs, or so it seems, I can still text. Probably better than my wife does.